had a few quick moves that I wanted to talk through, and then I'm going to hand the floor over to you to talk about some more NWSL stuff because I really, really like that, and I think we had some good momentum going during the gauntlet. So we'll get back to that. No other. I don't think any other podcast, let alone sports card podcast, are talking about the NWSL. So I'm very excited about that. But we did make some moves. We added James Wood, Robert Hassel, Isaac Pacheco. We talked about Jackson Churio. We added all of them to the sports card investment report at nooffseason.com. Go check that out. It's really, really worth your money. And you can save 20% by using the promo code NOOFFSEASON. And it's really good entertainment too. It's a lot of stuff to go through. If you like sports cards, and I know you do because you're listening to this show, you should check out the sports card investment report at nooffseason.com. Subscribe and get 20% off by using the promo code NOOFFSEASON. And like I said, we added a bunch of baseball prospects. We added a ton of UFC people. We've added, just a ton of UFC fighters. So we've done a lot of research on UFC fighters, and we want you to check out the sports card investment report. All right, so Kendall, over to you now because you had and we'll take your Q&A. So feel free to drop any questions right now. If you're watching live, drop them in the comments. We'll take them at the end of the show. So drop them in now and then we'll take them. But I'm going to hand the floor over to Kendall to talk about some NWSL and some women's soccer cards.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Don't pull it up yet, but I want to have that available already. Let's see, screen 2. Okay, so there it is. When I get there, let's talk about. Might as well do this one first since we already talked. Okay, so there's a couple. So I've been interested in some of this stuff, and we've talked about Sophia Smith quite a bit already. I was going to talk about her a little bit anyway this week. I had no idea that we were going to get to this level of involvement with her, but Sophia Smith Day here at Sports Card Strategy Show, so we might as well make a calendar event next year with Sophia Smith Day next year. But we are in a position in our culture, in our lifetime, to where I believe women's sports are finally at the precipice and the cusp of doing some very real things in terms of having money to be able to do some things to really highly grow women's sports in our generation. So I think in this generation, you're going to see some things really turn where the women's sports section of life is not going to be as laughed at as it has previously. Like, we can look at the past 100 years and you can see where women have come from. And I think the next 100 years are going to be even more groundbreaking. I think you've got all the stuff going on with it politically and everything in terms of I don't want to get into any of that right now, but there's obviously a lot of stuff going on in women's rights and things like that. But I think women's sports are also wildly growing in popularity. One of the biggest stories that I've seen in the news over the past 6 to 8 weeks has been Brittany Griner in Russia. Okay, that is a bad situation, but people know who Brittany Griner is. Lisa Leslie and all that kind of stuff, the people that were before, I don't think would have had the same reaction publicly that Brittany Griner is having in Russia. Now, I think Lisa Leslie was very great. I think, I'm pretty sure she was on Space Jam. That's pretty significant. But there is just a wave in women's sports that's going in a very popular direction, I feel like. And so, interestingly enough, the U.S. women's national team is wildly good compared to their competitors. They are just smashing their competitors. But there's also leagues in Europe where these ladies are getting paid significant money to be on teams that you've heard of that are their women's expression of Arsenal, Everton, Chelsea, Man City, Man U. Those PSG, those teams are having players. Tottenham, for instance, was where Alex Morgan played. So like this is a significant thing. So Sophia Smith coming out of the NWSL, we've talked about her being in the U.S. women's national team and having 8 goals and like 20 something appearances, and she's on the rise. But I think there's another rise coming where she will move from the Thorn overseas if she desires that. I mean, she could just desire to stay home, but I think Sophia goes and is on a national stage over there. She goes and gets paid very good money for actually WNBA players. I think you have some experience with this, Paul. They go overseas to make most of their money, and then they come back to play in the WNBA. I don't know if you want to speak about that real briefly or not, but
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Like they play both seasons, so they play year round. And all the women that I worked with went over to Europe for. I mean, there was nobody left in the off season in Detroit because they all went over to Europe and made probably 3 or 4 times as much as they did in the summer in Detroit, and they just played both seasons.
which it honestly blows my mind. Like you would just think as an American, this would be the spot, even though it's low. Like you would think this is where they could get paid the most, and that's just not the case. Like the club sports over there have really like for some countries they've made it pretty accessible for both genders, or all genders, I guess. And so when you like, wasn't that why Brittany was in Russia anyway?
Yeah, yeah, it's exactly.
Okay, so I could see Sophia Smith moving over there, doing very well, and also doing very well in the like World Cup scene and the U.S. Women's National Team scene. So I think she is somebody that we could be watching as a very investable player. Similar to her, there's another person with another very similar profile to what I've just said, except for her dad is mega famous. So Trinity Rodman is another player in this Parkside set for the NWSL that I think could be a very like crazy run here. She ended up getting in the media last like a couple of months ago because her contract situation. She had one of the biggest rookie contracts that's ever been in the NWSL, and she said like she got a little bit of trouble because she said something in the way of like, yeah, I'm the newcomer or something like that. And it kind of sounded disrespectful to all the people that have basically, she's standing on their shoulders. And then she said, no, 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 like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm actually saying, like, I am where I am because of the shoulders that I'm standing on. The Alex Morgans, the Abby Wambachs, all the Mia Hams, like the people before her are able to get her. Trinity has a very significant contract. I don't know, Paul, if you want to Google that while I'm talking about Trinity here, so you can give us actual numbers. But these Trinity Rodman cards are also on Parkside. I think additionally, both of these players together being Parkside rookies and being cards that are going for $800 to $1,000. Like, do you ever think Parkside thought, yeah, we're going to have some autos that sell for 4 digits? Like, I don't know if when they set out their thing, they were going to just think that they were going to make cards for NWSL players, maybe so that like the young girls in the hobby like can see their favorite players on team or like on cards. Maybe that's kind of where they capped themselves mentally. I don't know if they thought they were going to have 3, 4, potentially 5-digit autos in this product. Like that's just it's kind of cool from a Parkside perspective. But
Yeah,
Trinity
they're
Rodman,
flying off the shelves in retail. I was able to find one of them while I was back in the States, and I've got it in my closet in Tennessee. Okay, Trinity Rodman signed a 4-year deal that is worth more than $1.1 million total with the Washington Spirit. She's 20 years old, by the way.
okay, so around 250 grand a year.
Yep.
Okay, so that's about league minimum for MLS. So still like not quite the same, but like the fact that she signed that kind of a deal is pretty impressive and has a long way to go. But still, like the fact that the money is flowing in for that kind of thing is still proving to the fact that this is a league that's on its way up, that is still growing. But I think the thing that sets it apart from the overseas women's team is they're not attached to men's teams. So like they might be in the same city, they might have similar branding, they might have all that, but like they're not playing on the women's Arsenal team. They're not playing on the women's Everton team. They're playing on the Thorn or the Spirit or the the Pride, I think is one of the teams in Orlando, like, and so you've got all these teams that are potentially building a brand themselves as well. So I would look for them to potentially get a streaming partner pretty soon, to get into more eyeballs. When you have players like Trinity and Sophia in your league, you're going to want to market them at some level. So I think this goes up as well. Going across the pond, these are three more ladies that I think, I don't know much about them. I'm still looking into them myself, but these are three young players that I think are going to be worth watching and looking at over the next 6 to 12 months. And we're going to start with Brazilian Caratina Macario. We're going to go with that. And this lady, I spoke earlier about Stanford, about how Stanford is a really good program for women's soccer. She went to Stanford, so she actually has some Sports Illustrated Stanford cards out there. But this is like her rare card. It's $599. Doesn't have any autos, but she's thought to be the next Brazilian star behind Marta. Marta is a pretty famous women's national player as well. She is like the Brazilian girls soccer player, but like Katarina is moving into that same space. She went to Stanford. Now she's going to be playing for the Brazilian national team, which is crazy because it says that she's on a U.S. women's national team card here. Maybe I've done the wrong research, but I believe she's going to be playing for Brazil. Do you want to fact check me there, Paul?
I will.
Because if not, that's kind of embarrassing. But it does show the fact that I am going.
She's a Brazilian-born American professional soccer player who plays as a midfielder for Lyon of the French Division 1. She represents the United States internationally. So this is a confusing one.
How many caps does she have?
How many what?
Caps. How many appearances does she have? It'll show on her Wikipedia page if that's where you're at.
I'm on Wikipedia.
On the right side, if you scroll down, you'll be able to see like how many caps she has. It should be like this.
Oh, okay. Let's see. She has 27 for Lyon, 5. It looks like 22 total for the United States.
Okay, so I was wrong.
2018 U23, and then 17 in 2021 and beyond. And
so
8 goals.
I was wrong there. So she's got the same amount of goals and appearances as Sophia Smith. So all that could be said that she's like a new crop of players coming up. Regardless, it still is the fact that she's investable. She is playing for Lyon in overseas, which is the real point that I wanted to make here is like these women are making significant money overseas, which is why this is not a Parkside card and why she's playing for Lyon. She probably will have a card in the Tops set coming up soon, which is why I want to move on to this one. You will see Maria Antonie Katoto is a PSG player who is thought to be one of the next up-and-coming players as well. These 5 players that I'm giving you today are potentially like between like flyers and stars in the terms of like these are the next up-and-coming women in the sport that you could potentially look at. So Maria Antonie or Antoinette, like I'm super bad with pronunciations, so if I'm butchering this, I apologize. But this lady is a person who already has a Topps Chrome card. It's got a rookie card logo. It's on the right brand. It's super cool with the like Inferno refractor, like with the fire behind her. She actually, I don't believe she has a Topps auto, which sets her apart a little bit, but she's on the French national team, and I do know that. So this lady is going to be competing on the French national team, and somebody that's worth watching. A fairly young player as well. She's all these players are in their young or lower 20s, and they're up and comers and in the sport as well. So my final one here is she's a part of the English team. Speaking of Marta, got an autograph yet to be graded rookie card for hers, along with that Mia Hamm rookie for you, Kendall. He's just playing on the fact that he doesn't like women's soccer and he just wants to get rid of it. That's what I'm hearing. I think you need to invest in those things, brother.
I think SSI likes women's soccer. Autograph yet to be graded, Marta.
Still pretty sick. I'm glad I mentioned Marta then. So Vivian, I'm not even going to try that one. Vivian here.
Let me try it. Miedema. I can't see your screen very large.
It is an A at the end. It's Miedema, I guess.
Miedema.
So she actually has autos, and this is a rookie card auto for the Arsenal set. And this lady is Dutch. She plays for the Netherlands national team, and is another up and coming name. But this is kind of what I wanted to show was the difference in the cards. So this is a $92 card. And this is a finished auction, by the way. $92 forward. She's scoring goals. She's on the national team, like blah, blah, blah. But then you come over here, and this is a Topps Chrome rookie card insert, like refractor. Sick. This is a sick card. If this was an Arsenal men's card, this would be going for crazy money, right? Then you literally do this Parkside card, not the same at all, $1,000 price tag. These are ladies that need to be invested in. These Parkside cards, like people are like, oh, they're worth nothing. No, this is literally Parkside versus Topps Chrome, and you've got 1% of the value here.
Yeah, it's amazing.
These women are all amazing. Up and comers.
Yeah, this is definitely something that we are on the forefront of in terms of talking about, and this is fascinating content, and people need to pay attention.
So there you go. Those 5 women of names you can be investing in over the next 2 to 3 years that will grow in popularity. I would recommend going a little bit smaller on Sophia Smith instead of spending $1,000 on a Sophia Smith card, unless you're a big nutter, and then you can just go in there and just go grab it. So probably could have referenced that one different in terms of never mind.
The only reason I know about Trinity Rodman is because you mentioned her briefly in an episode of the Soccer Card Strategy Show right here on this feed, and I did my research, and then that's how I found out about the Parkside cards, and then I started doing more research on the NWSL, and it's just pretty fascinating stuff. I have not bought a women's soccer card, but I think it's definitely something to look into. I was shocked by the sales prices, and it's very, very good stuff. So Toa asks, we're going to go into our Q&A section here.
That's a great question.
Let me get